Happy Wednesday! It is Wellness Wednesday. I'm excited to be back after a 2-week break. I'm really excited, particularly for this episode for a few reasons. But first, as always, we are going to get started with a Vertical Ledge update. You all know that we have a very anticipated launch happening on March 11th. This is called our spring launch. It will include a bunch of different items. We've got a guide on it. We've been gearing up for it, and it's one of our most technical launches to date. So if you haven't been around Vertical Ledge for very long, you know that we do a lot of robust stands, but the most robust stands and the most functional stands are coming out this March, and it is very anticipated. We're very excited. We're really hoping that the acrylic boxes will be ready to ship by then. Everything else is going to be a pre-order, which is really exciting, but it's also a little bit of a bummer if you have a show coming up that you really want a specific stand for. Make sure that you're planning ahead of time. We have a lot of anticipation for this A-frame. If you know what I mean, we're going to be pre-ordering, which means when you put an order in, it will be a 2 to 6 week lead time. If you get in early, you get it for a discount, but if you wait and order when we have it in stock, it will be full price. So kind of the only way we're doing sales this year is if you pre-order. This helps us gauge how much to initially put in with our small local manufacturing team. They actually just got a new CNC to keep up with orders and demand from you all, so I'm really excited about that. But it has been a little bit of a learning curve for them and for us. I'm just going to turn my volume up as we get ready to have our guest on. I'm super excited. Round Collection Large Quick Inventory Update is in stock. It will be ready to ship by the end of next week. So we moved it up because we ran out early, which is great. The bistro and market tables are coming in tomorrow. Finally, after a month delay. I'm really excited about those. We'll have a huge inventory update for you on the stories on Friday, so be sure to tune into that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today. I'm really excited for today's episode for a few reasons. One, Vertical Ledge is always really fascinated with market organizers. One, because they're bold enough to start a market, and two, they're bold enough and have enough courage to keep it going even when things like COVID happen. We need a lot of support from our market organizers, otherwise what the heck, we would have no events to go to and vend at. Sophie from the Market is the Market founder over at the Market 1115 in Manchester, Connecticut. She reached out to Vertical Ledge for a few reasons. One, because she wanted to figure out what kind of collaborations we do. And then two, because she wanted to buy some stands to rent to her market vendors. I mean, how cool is that? What if you went to a market and they had Vertical Ledge stands for you to rent on the spot and ready for you to go? I'm really excited to see how this turns out. We've been playing around with this idea for a long time. I'm going to go ahead and invite her on. Let's see here. Go. It looks like we also, why do we always get deliveries? Hey, Sophie, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm good. Hey, it looks like my landlord just showed up. Let me just take this 1 second. Do you want to introduce who you are?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name is Sophia. I am the manager of the Market at 1115 Main, and that is in Manchester, Connecticut. I see some of on there asking. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. I started this market in collaboration with our downtown over a year ago, and I just hired a market manager to come on and help me with it as well. So it's really exciting to see how it's growing so far.
That was one of my questions later in the show, is kind of like, do you have a team? It's a one-woman show, all that stuff. So tell me a little bit about kind of your professional background and what led you to even start the market in the first place.
Yeah, so I actually am an owner of 2 small businesses. So I started in 2017 with the Clay Pen, which is a paint your own pottery store in Connecticut in West Hartford. And after 2 years of owning the Clay Pen, we had grown so much that I realized we really needed a second location. And so when I started looking at a second location, I knew it needed to be larger than it was with our first location. And so we went ahead and we were looking at a space, and we found where my second store is right now in Manchester, Connecticut, the Firestone. So the Firestone is a pottery Paint Your Own Pottery store. We also have a cafe on site. We do wheel throwing, so it's much larger.
Fun. Yeah.
Which once COVID hit in 2020 became really helpful because we have 5,000 square feet where we were able to spread out. And that's where the initial start of what became the Market at 1115 Main started as just pop-ups inside the Firestone, which is my store here in Manchester.
Yeah. Awesome. That's like really exciting. So what made you kind of start doing markets and like utilizing this space for something for markets?
Yeah, well, actually, in West Hartford, there was a store that was across the street from me, and due to COVID, she closed. And so in 2020, once she closed and was looking for other ways to do pop-ups and still get her business out there, she reached out to me and was like, the Firestone is so big. Do you think I could do a pop-up there? And we started with just one vendor at a time, and then so many small businesses who had relied on markets that weren't happening because of COVID needed a space to still showcase their business. And so at that time, at the Firestone, we were like, oh, we can totally host, 1 to 3 businesses. It can still be safe and socially distanced, but give them an opportunity to be in a place because we did have a brick and mortar. So at that time, we were able to host them just 3 at a time, but the list of businesses who were interested in popping up just kept growing. So it was a list of 10, then 20, then 30. And that's when I knew, oh my gosh, I don't have space inside. We need to take this outside.
Yeah. Okay, so do you remember the very first market you ever held, like that small one? Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah. Are you talking inside or outside?
Let's start with the inside one, and then we'll kind of migrate the story to the outside.
Yeah, so inside I remember we have our spaces kind of set up. It's kind of cut down the middle. So we have our pottery wheels in the back. We have seats in front with our cafe. And so we started our pop-ups inside. So we had 3 tables inside where people could start, and it's kind of in a zigzag. So when they walk in, they can see it. And it was really great. I mean, when you see the support that the community has for small business, it just, especially as a fellow small business owner, it's really encouraging. People get excited. They want to see what's happening. And it's really complimentary to a cafe as well to have other things. People can come in, they can shop, they can get a coffee. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's like a natural space to have like rotating items for sale.
Exactly.
Like people that go to cafes, they're usually like they're gonna go there every week or every other week. That's where they're gonna go to like catch up on a walk or hang out with your friend.
Yeah.
And so like having a space that's constantly like rotating and offers that new set of like, oh, that's really cool, or this maker pop up or whatever, right? I think that that's really unique. It really, to me, it reminds me of a little bit of Gilmore Girls in the sense of like small town, inviting people into something at the same space where you might actually run into a lot of people and have that like little like cafe community vibe going. So that's like really cool. I didn't know that about your space.
Yeah, so that's where it started. And so then in 2020, for Small Business Saturday, we started small. We have a little courtyard outside of the Firestone. And so we started with just 5 vendors outside for Small Business Saturday. And it was so much fun. And so that kind of closes out for the winter season. We continued our pop-ups. And we were talking with a downtown manager for downtown Manchester about what can we do to bring people downtown. And I knew that doing an outdoor market was something I wanted to be a part of. And so that's kind of what launched us into 2021, the Market at 1115 Main, when we knew this is something we love doing. And it's growing into something a little bit separate than what the Firestone is doing. It is its own market in itself.
Yeah, I love that. That is really encouraging. So you mentioned a downtown manager. Did you know this contact beforehand, or was it someone you actually researched?
Yeah, I see some of our local businesses in Manchester commenting, and our downtown manager, Joy, is awesome. She is always on the lookout for things that we can do to grow our downtown. We have a great main street here in Manchester, Connecticut, and Our downtown Manchester loves partnering with the small businesses on Main Street to make it's a whole downtown event. So it's not just a standalone market. It's what can we do to incorporate other businesses that are downtown to continue to grow. So that really helps not only myself as a small business owner, but also our market, because it's not just a standalone event. It's an event that's going on with all of Main Street.
Yeah. So I noticed the markets. Let me just write that down because that was really good. The markets that do the best are ones that are in collaboration with something else. They're not just like a random pop-up that doesn't really have enough buzz to get people down to it and make it like a legitimate event. I think partnering with cities is probably the best thing that you can do, just because they already have a large like audience, right? They've got the whole city. They can contact people, they can email out, they can put flyers, they can put big banners up on the busy highways and stuff like that. And it's not that much more work for them on their end, especially if they have a downtown manager, which I don't think a lot of cities do. So it'd be really interesting to see like what other markets do and how they connect with their local municipalities and their cities and stuff. Partnering it with like, do you ever do like food trucks and stuff too?
We haven't yet, and part of the reason is because our Main Street has so many incredible restaurants. And I think part of being able to partner with downtown Manchester is that we're able to host our market, and we really focus on local artisans, handmade in Connecticut. And then it's an event, so you can come, you can shop the market, you can walk down Main Street, and you can go to one of our local breweries, or you can go to one of our local restaurants and really just stay downtown all day long.
Yeah, it really focuses on the local, which I think is super important, especially, you know, post-COVID and everything. I know Canada particularly is really big into promoting everything local, and they partner with a lot of their markets. So it's really exciting to see that kind of happening there in Connecticut. We
Almost part of the reason why the market has been so well received is because I think COVID brought to light so many just real struggles of small business owners, as people were kind of honest and just very open about what they were facing with COVID and closures and not being able to have their markets. And so part of that is almost people being more supportive, and people wanted to come downtown. They want to come to the market and shop local. And the market is a way to highlight all of the things, from cleaning supplies, from candles, home goods, clothing. You know, you can get everything, and you can buy and support local businesses while you're doing it.
Yeah. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about some of the hurdles you've had to overcome with doing a market.
Yeah, I mean, I think for anyone, you have a lot going on in your life. So balancing two small businesses and starting up a market is definitely no small feat. But being able to, and now I've transitioned, so now I have a software that helps me, is just those startup of organizing, making sure that you have all the dates set up, you have your insurance in place, your permits in place. And then also, I'd say the biggest thing for me is making sure that the vendors are set up for success. So what that looks like for me is that I try not to have more than one vendor of a specific type. So if I'm going to have one photographer, one candle maker, one soap maker, and so for me, balancing, making sure that I'm keeping track of what vendors I'm accepting and for what dates, to make sure that each vendor can be as successful as they can at that market.
Wow, I love that. First of all, there's so many markets where you go and it's just like kind of the same thing on repeat. So as somebody going to the market, you're kind of like, well, who do I buy from? And second, like there's not enough time for me to talk to every single person and like decide who I like best to buy from, right? And to test every single person's stuff seems a little bit unnecessary. So to have just one highlighted makes the user and the customers that are coming want to come back, because it was ease of use, which we talk a lot about here at Vertical Edge when helping vendors with their booth setups. And then the other thing you said is like setting your vendors up for success. Props to you, and obviously shows, because look at all these comments. I am just blown away by the community involvement you've got here. this isn't, this isn't common in markets. And so I just want to like send a praise to you because that is like really encouraging. And to have somebody who's truly in it for the small businesses, it means a lot and makes a huge difference in markets. And for those of you watching, definitely send Sophie a note of encouragement when you can and give her praise because this isn't common. And if this is the first time you're hearing about it, there's some market organizers out there that are just in it for the money, and it's really, really sad and it breaks my heart. So that's why I was excited to have you on. I was like, this is my type of person.
Helpful. I mean, coming as a small business owner, I think it's really helpful because I have that experience of being a small business owner and being a small business trying to grow, especially in the light of COVID. And when you go to events, and I've done it as my business gone to markets, that's a huge investment for you as a small business, especially, solo entrepreneurs who are just one person. That's 8+ hours of your day. And so I want to make sure that the market is working not only for the people coming, but the people there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say has been the most surprising thing for you as far as doing markets and being in the market organizer position rather than the vending position?
Yeah, I know this sounds like counterintuitive, but also just like it's, I guess, reinforce this idea that you can buy everything local. And I knew that going in, and that was such a passion of mine of, there is no excuse. You can get it local if you search enough. And so when it started and I was looking, okay, I need to fill all these outside seats now, trying to find different types of vendors, you realize, oh my gosh, you really can get anything local. If it's, reusable bags, Tupperware, all of these things that people make locally. I mean, like, small business owners are awesome. They are making so many cool and creative things. And at this point, I'm able to have almost 40 vendors, all unique, selling different types of things that aren't necessarily competing with each other at the market. And as new applications come in, it's almost in awe of just like, wow, this is incredible.
Yes, I love that. I want to come to your market.
I want to visit.
I feel like anybody who's a small business, they love supporting other small businesses, and that's one of the reasons why it's hard to sometimes make money at markets when you're like spending it all on everybody else. You're like, okay, I'm gonna trade you this for this, and I'll just buy that and that and that and that. Like, I have that happen all the time, and I love going to markets specifically because I feel like I can find everything. And here in Seattle, it's more like I have to go to a farmer's market, and maybe there'll be a few interesting vendors that I want to buy from, but it's definitely not the everyday stuff that I'm looking to replace a grocery store shopping trip with.
Yeah.
I love going to holiday markets to buy gifts. I think handmade gifts are where it's at. Like, nobody wants piece of junk Amazon gifts anymore.
Exactly.
And so for me, like, being able to support someone handmade, and then I go and I share that story with the person that I give the gift to. So it becomes like a huge hour-long conversation. And so I think it's really powerful what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a whole story, and I still get messages. We get them to the Firestone's email. But now I have a market email. That market email of people being like, I came there this summer, and I remember there was someone who was selling these types of rings. Do you remember their name? Like, I want to buy them again. And so it becomes just a pattern of, you start small, and then people really build up from there. And it's, it just takes one purchase to make a difference.
Yes, one purchase. Okay, so we had a couple questions from our audience specifically about some logistical ends of starting a market. So as far as insurance and licensing, what do you guys have?
Yeah, so that was something I saw that came up a lot yesterday on the poll. And I wanted to start by saying everyone, I'm assuming, who's on here is from a different state and a different area. And so checking in individually with what are your regulations in your state, in your town that you're hosting, because that's going to be different for each person. As a small business, I have businesses in different locations. I have a third party that I use to help me with insurance. And that is really helpful for me because I'm able to go through them, tell them exactly what I'm doing at my businesses. I have food service. I have a lot going on, and I want to make sure that I'm covered. And so one, just finding someone who is local to you that can help you through that is really helpful. And sometimes, yes, you have to pay a small fee or a portion to get that, but you want to make sure that you're being safe. And two, just make sure that you're honest as well. If you're going to have food, if you're going to have alcohol vendors, whatever it is, you don't want to hide that because you want to make sure you're covered.
Yeah.
The day when you go to that permitting for the town, they're going to want to make sure you're being safe too. So making sure you have that all underway. Our town is great. I'm able to call, ask questions. What would if I did bring in a food truck, what would that mean? If I did bring in alcohol, what would that mean? And I'm able to pick their brains to know, is this a step I want to take?
Yep.
And just getting those questions out there to the people who are local who know how to answer them.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have, side question, do you have your vendors also have insurance as well?
Not right now. For the ones that are on my property, I have my insurance that covers.
Okay, yeah, awesome. And then what kind of licenses did you need to get started?
For me, I have a lot of licenses as my business. So I'm running this market as the businesses that I already have existing. So
Yeah.
for who's starting from new, I definitely think it would be interesting. If you don't already have a business, I have a storefront. This is the property that I'm running it on. So that's a lot different than someone who's renting out a space to run a market.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm going to assume that building owner or property owner is going to have their own set of regulations.
Yeah, yeah. We're looking to do a market and we just run it under, like vertical ledge, obviously, but then it would become down to like, okay, we're thinking about doing a summer market here at this new location that we have, because the back of ours is like, it's kind of like industrial space, but it's all wineries and microbreweries. And we could totally bring in some like food trucks and have some really specific like niche vendors come in and have it be like a Saturday thing. So we're kind of looking at it, and that's why I was like also excited to talk to you. And
sounds like it's gonna be.
What do you think that you need in order to have like a successful market?
Yeah, well, first, I always think it's best to, like, if you have a group of vendors that you know you want to come, that you've worked with in the past, that you've seen, I start with asking them, because I didn't start as a market manager. I don't have experience prior of running markets. And thankfully for me, it started slow. It started with those 3 vendors a weekend popping up. And so what I've learned a lot is by asking our vendors, what do you want to see? What makes a market successful to you? And that's kind of how we started from the ground up, of getting that feedback directly from the artists themselves of what is helpful as a business. And then on, my experience as a consumer is I love going to markets where, there's products that I want to buy. They are local, they're handmade. And so when I look at who I'm accepting into the market, I don't accept things that are mass made. I don't accept, multi-level marketing. I don't, I want to create a market that really prioritizes small businesses and handmade items. And that, I think, attracts a customer base that also values that.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you advertise and get people? That was one of the questions we had, was like, how do you actually even get people to the market?
Yeah, I kind of do 3 main tiers for me. We use Instagram, we use Facebook, and then we have a website, and I use Google My Business. And so I'm on Google Maps as a market location. And so I can see our insights coming in from there. We have our website, so we're building SEO, traffic through there. And the software that I'm working with, called Marketworks, I have been like through the moon with how helpful the owner Chris has been. So he helped me create market maps. He has there's vendor information on our website, so they each get a bio with links to their website, which is really nice. So it's easy for our vendors to interact with our website and get involved. And then of course, social media is really helpful as well, because you're able to get and a market is really visual. It's based on products. It's based on, especially if you're having like an artisan market. So we're able to repost what our artists are working on to get people, excited and encouraged.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's circle back to first Google My Biz. What can you tell us what that is for people that don't know?
Yeah, so Google My Business is the business side of Google and Google Maps. So if you're searching in your area and you're saying, coffee shops near me, what it's recommending is based, off of a lot of aspects, but what you're seeing on the side is based off of their Google listing page. So Google My Business is the listing, and it's something that I have for both of my brick and mortars, but I also set it up for the market as well. And so that's on our, so if you go onto a Google Maps, it'll show the market at 1115 Main as a space. And that means if someone's on Google Maps looking at markets near them, they're going to be able to see our market. And when they go on there, it doesn't show that I'm open, 7 days a week. So it's not misleading, but it does have information about who's coming, when they're coming, to get people engaged.
I feel like that is super important because one of the things that I like to do, first of all, it's kind of hard to find markets if you just want to like search on Google. But two, the markets that I have found, especially while traveling, they do have similar setup like the Google My Biz page where it's like, oh, the market is happening on Thursday nights. Great. Let me plan a weekly meetup with the girlfriends on Thursday nights. And this is where we're going to go. And it's helpful, at least from a user and like consumer standpoint, is like, I don't want to have to go 1,000 clicks to find what market's happening when. It should be very visible and easy. So that's excellent. And then tell me a little bit about the Marketworks software that you're talking about. What is that? How did you find it? And what do you do?
Well, so when I started in, 2020, I started with a clipboard and paper and a pencil, and I had each week planned out who was coming, when they were coming, what they were typed, and as I was accepting people, it was all handwritten. And I carried that into 2022 as well. I had everything. And when was it? It was, I think, September at the market. All my papers blew away. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I had to all my emails and recreate all of my lists. And I was like, okay, this is not working. And so I switched over and I started using Excel. And so when vendors applied, I had them using Google Forms. It fed into my Excel doc and I was able to do it. But there was still a lot of work behind the scenes. And if someone messaged me to cancel or, and through Instagram and then through text and then through email, and I was like, oh my gosh, there has to be an easier way. And so that's when I started looking into software and what softwares are available for markets. And I was like, there has to be a solution. And so I started testing out a few different ones. And one of the ones that came up was Marketworks. And what I love about this software from the get-go is that he gives you a full month to go in, use his software, play around with it. He'll help set it up for you before you pay so that you know if it's something that is going to work for you and with your market. So I was able to get in there, upload the dates. I reached out to a group of like 10 to 15 of our local vendors and was like, hey, I'm playing around with this new software for our 2022 season. Can you go in, log in, see how you like it, apply, because it's going to give them an back access just for vendors to go in if they have any change requests, if they want to change any info on their vendor profile page, if they want to photos. So I wanted to kind of get their feedback as well. And once that was working out and I knew I, wanted to move forward with it, it's made the market so much easier because it streamlines all communication through that platform. So I'm no longer getting emails and Instagram messages and text messages being like, can I this date to this date to this date? Which makes it a lot easier for me to be focused on what the market needs.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's super user friendly too from all aspects. I'm excited. I'm definitely going to check that out and share it as a link because I think that's important. We'll also include it in the blog notes as well. So this is so much information. Really good.
A lot.
How have you seen collaborating with other, so not the vendors, but the rest of the small businesses in the area? How are you able to get them on board with something like this?
Yeah, well, I think it's nice because whenever you have a group of people coming for a downtown event, whether it's a market or, a farmer's market, whatever it is, you're getting people downtown. So then as small businesses, you want to keep them downtown. You don't want them to drive away and go somewhere else. You want to keep them. And so having that partnership with Joy from our downtown has been really helpful because she has acted as almost like not a mediator per se, but just
like the liaison.
Exactly, to get people involved. So, she's corresponding with me so that we can pick our dates for the year. So we already planned out 2022. And she's in touch with the other downtown businesses of ways that they can get involved as well. And, from hosting nonprofits to doing events like face painting or games at their location. We had a local theater come, and they did a pop-up at one of the local coffee shops on our main street with their characters from their play. So there's just so many different ways that the town can get involved so that it's, friendly for people visiting as well as families, because they can stay downtown and do different activities too.
I love that. I love how the local school is also able to get involved. I feel like everyone can benefit from like this small town collaboration. And it's really encouraging. I love that this is kind of like the heart of what you guys do. How have you handled situations with vendors that might be unhappy? What's some of the issues that you've run into with vendors? You don't have names or anything, just like somebody that's like, okay, how can I like get my mind ready to handle some of these issues that I haven't thought of because I haven't been in that position? What have some of those been?
I would say like some of the big ones are, location at the market, not being happy with where they're located. And that one is hard because you try, as I out and I'm looking, okay, what am I going to do for this space? You don't want to have a bad space, know. And so I've read a lot of things from other market who are inside and they have multiple rooms. So luckily, when we do most of our markets, they're outside without, our exception of pop-ups and things. So I think it's hard because what I've heard for that feedback is it typically comes in the beginning of the day. So they're there, they're not happy where they're placed. But, when that's happened by the end of the day, they're often in a different tune because of the way that we do our market. We have it so that it's kind of like a flow in circles. So we don't try and have any dead ends. So you keep, so in that case, that was kind of a nice, easy solution where we were able to fix that by the end of the day. And then of course you have vendors that don't have the sales they were looking for. And it's hard. And I think, what I can do as a market coordinator is get people there. And then from that point, it's really on to that vendor to make sure that they have an engaging display. And that's where a company like you comes in, where you want to have a display that's engaging. You want to make sure your phone is away. And it's really interesting to be able to see the way that consumers interact based off of how your booth looks. And then how engaging that market vendor is as well, and the things that contribute to what that sales day is going to be. So kind of at that point, it gets passed off to the vendor to finish that day out.
Okay, so give me some examples of contributions to like a good sales day. Like what are some things that you've seen people do really good to have a successful day of sales? And it's like 100% on the vendor. Like this is what they can do, not, stuff the organizer can do.
I think, to start off, and I'm not even just saying that because I'm on with you, like have an engaging display. Like if you have a flat display that someone walks by and they can't see it, then they can't catch their eye. You want people browse, and before they go up, because they, don't want to feel that pressure to buy, they're going to stand back. So being able to have, dimensional displays where people can walk by and see such a wide variety of items is going to be really engaging for them. And then two, body language, one, being physically at your booth as much as you can. I understand that if you're a single business owner, you do have to run to go to the bathroom, things like that. But as much as possible, being at your the whole time, being there early to set up, being ready by the setup time, not cleaning up early, and then keeping the phone away. And I think that's the hardest thing. It's a long day that you're at a market for, but if you're looking at your phone, you don't want a customer to feel like they have to interrupt you to buy a product from you. And so being able to ask someone very, just like, how are you? How's your day going? Does so much. But if you're sitting there on your phone, then I think that's a really big challenge. And I think that's something I see a lot with different vendors.
Yeah, I had a thought come in. It was as far as with the phone. Yeah, it's interesting because if I go to a market and I see someone on their phone, well, like I know the audience really well, so I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? Like I want to go up to them and be like, put that on, like I want to slap it,
Mm-hmm.
But obviously I'm not going to do that.
It's hard because as a business owner, with my staff, like you're not going to be on your phone on the floor, and there's things that I do with my staff, and it's sometimes hard for me to put like my owner self away. And let people, it's their business. You're going to run it how you want. But just that being engaged,
Yeah,
and physically being engaged with that customer so that they feel welcomed, because that's your little store for the day. That's your brick and mortar for that one day. And that's your chance to kind of wow someone.
Yeah, and I think too, what we have to keep in mind is like typically that's the first time somebody's in like introduced to your brand. So if they're introduced to your brand and they have the courage, first of all, to go up and look at maybe your flat display where they can't actually see anything from far away, and they have to like kind of get over that like pressure of going up to your booth, which can be considered pressure, right? 100%. If you're on your phone, then it's already like they have to muster up even more courage, and you're making it that much like that entryway ticket, like the baseline entry is like already so difficult, and it's making it hard for the customer to even want to come up. So they're just going to walk away because that all happens in a matter of like 3 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel whether you're welcomed like right away, and you can, it just radiates off of you. But you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be that you are an extrovert and you're super chatty, super outgoing. It's small things. People can feel, if you genuinely want people to come to your booth, if you're in a good mood and excited for people to be there. So it's not like you have to talk someone's ear off, but just a simple smile, asking how they are. No pressure. You don't have to be very salesy, just, enough to get people to want to stay and look around.
Yeah, we have a reel coming out that's like top questions to ask customers as they come into your booth. Just like a bunch of fun ones. But one of the ones that I like is like, hey, what brought you to the market today? Mm-hmm. Like, because that, like, first of all, I love being asked that because I'm like, I'm here to do research. I'm grading everybody's booth. Don't mind me. I'm literally there just to do research. Like, I love seeing all the different vendors and all the different booths, and I like joke around that I'm like secretly spying on everybody, but I am, right? Like, this is part of my business.
Yeah. People are doing their booth
there to like find something. I'm usually on the hunt. I'm like, okay, I want to find something, and I usually don't know what that something is. And I think that's everybody that comes to a market. They secretly want to buy something. They do. They want to find something that they really resonate with. Mm-hmm. They don't know what the heck it's going to be, and they're just hoping they get to go home with something unique. I think that's something that it can make an introvert or extrovert or somebody, inside the booth, if you can remember that everybody's there to secretly buy something, and it might not be your thing, but hey, give them a good experience so they can come back, and give them a good experience so they might be able to find your neighbor's thing or the small business, like couple boosts down from you. Like, give them a good opportunity to continue to engage with the other vendors. They have one bad experience with a vendor, they might not ever come back to a handmade market, and that's just the reality of it. So
yeah, I mean, it's serious. And also creating those relationships with your co-vendors and being nice and respectful of them and their space and engaging. And the other day, 2 vendors that I've had at my market made the best post about how they met at our market and they've become such good friends. And it was just like so awesome to see. And like, those are people who are invested in your business too. So, you have your customers that are going to support you and keep you going. And then you have other small business owners that are doing just what you're doing. And could have helpful hints, and being open and happy and engaged with them as well is really nice. And you can feel it too, when you have vendors that are friendly and getting along, like the energy of the market just like it thrives, and you can feel it. It's such a good energy. I remember this one market, a storm was coming. It was going to be windy and rainy, and there was no thunder, but we knew, okay, there's going to be 1 hour of rain, and then the sun is going to come out. And all of the market vendors were just like, they were ready. Like, they're like, okay, we're going to hold it down. We have no one coming right now. It's pouring rain, but it's going to be sunny because that's New England. And it was one of the best. I mean, we had over 1,000 people come through that day. And I honestly feel like it was because the small business owners, they stuck it through. No one left early. They were like, okay, it's going to rain. We're going to cover up our stuff. We're going to have the best energy. And then the sun came out. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And we had so many people coming to the market that day because they got out of their house and they wanted to see what was going.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this for a minute because it's very fascinating to me. First, we have like small business ownership is a very isolating and lonely, and it can feel like you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders sometimes. Hello, I feel like I'm there every day. But second, the small business community is phenomenal. Like, I don't think there's another industry in the entire niche of industries that can say that they have a better community than the small business community does. There just isn't. So what you're doing, right, is you're giving these people who already kind of feel isolated and alone, they're risking this, they're risking a lot, their time, their money, their relationships with others, their livelihood, right, to pursue this unknown small business dream. And then they're able to connect with people who are right there on that level, ready to connect with them. And sometimes it can be hard to connect with our non-business owner friends or our non-side hustler friends, and it can kind of feel like you don't have anyone anymore, anyone that you can connect with, anyone that you can like share your hardships with, who they actually like understand it, not like just like, oh, you're just doing your thing, right? But like, wow, yeah, I'm right there with you, or I was there 2 months ago and this is how I got through it. So I think like having that teamwork and building that community is the perfect opportunity to do at markets. And if you're a vendor and you're listening to this and you haven't had the opportunity to like connect with other makers, like go early, like go an hour early before you need to set up. Like if you take 30 minutes to set up and you're done, be there an hour and a half early and help other people set up. See how if you can connect or vibe with somebody else at that market. Inevitably, if you have a collaborative spirit, which obviously your community does, what's going to end up happening is you guys can collaborate on social media posts, you guys can collaborate on gift sets, you can collaborate on booths together, you can go travel to some of these bigger shows together. You know, like there's these opportunities for you to grow your businesses alongside each other. That's not just a relationship, but it's also monetary, right? So I think that that's really, I mean, there's really like no pitfall to like putting your hand.
Awesome. One of our crystal vendors and one of our soap vendors collaborated and created this new soap together. And it was just awesome. They came back to the market one month. And it's just really exciting. I mean, because you have collaborations you can do, but also just like you said, you know, you want to be with people who know kind of what you're going through, and can give some insight to how to get through that tough month. Or, you know, if you're someone on Etsy, you know, talk with people who are using Etsy to help you, or people who are using Squarespace for their website, and being able to touch base with people who are really similar. Because definitely, you know, as I've been growing, when I started really small, when you're reading articles, even just on things like social media usage, and they're talking about these budgets of thousands of dollars, you know, as a small business, you're like, oh my God, what? So being able to relate to people who are on that kind of same level as you is really helpful.
Yes. I hear people spend like thousands of dollars out. I'm like, oh, we don't do that. Like, that's a lot. Yeah, like it's just mind boggling. Especially because I think there's a difference between like small business ownership is anyone that I'm pretty sure makes under like $10 million or something is considered a small business. And I'm like, I'm lumped in with those guys? Like, what the? I'm not even anywhere near that. How is that possible? And so it's like, I always consider like the handmade business, like my micro small businesses, you know, we're the people doing the real work.
Yeah. Game. And so I know, like for myself, I'm part of an association of, you know, art studio owners, and having that support in such of like a niche business that I own, it's unparalleled to have someone you can relate to just so closely. And so having someone in the area who you can, you know, help you and go through it is, even if it's not the exact same thing, you have a lot of the, you know, similar issues coming up.
Yeah, I love that. So, awesome. I think that this has been really awesome, and how it's just like gotten straight to the point. I'm like, wow, we're kind of early, which is great because we have some time to just kind of chitter chatter. I'm curious from, it's so funny. I've had this problem a couple times recently in 2020. It's just been a 2020 issue. But like while we sell display stands, I think that's like the least thing that we actually do. All of my time and energy goes into educating and putting out important content and newsletters and doing these Wellness Wednesdays. These take a lot of time, and like pulling out really good, useful information. But what is one thing that you found, or that you kind of hope to see your market level up with, as far as like visual merchandising or presenting their items in a way that properly represents the value that they give?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that it's taking that time, and it is an investment. It's just that, but I think small businesses, you have to go beyond just what that product is and what you are offering as an experience, and that is almost the difference, because someone could go to a big box store and get what you are selling, but what we're offering is an experience of customer service, and your product level. But I think really investing your time into making sure that your product is looking the best, that you are following protocols. Just because we're small doesn't mean that you have to do it a level down. You can invest in good displays, you can invest in good product to for wraps, for labels, making sure that your labels are water resistant, things like that, to kind of step it up a notch, can really make a huge difference and be that like small investment in the beginning that's going to help you so much down the line.
Mm-hmm. How did you hear about Vertical Edge?
Definitely on Instagram. And
Nice.
it's awesome because I think you guys are really unique, because you have so many things to help level up a display for a market. But you also have things that are helpful for a boutique. So, for me and our cafe, and we have a team of artists in our wet clay studio that, make mugs for our cafe. We sell local coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And begin, looking for our display purposes inside. And then I realized how helpful this would be also for our vendors, because you can just get lost in how to display your items, and I think you don't want to be too distracting. And I think that's something that really drew me to the Vertical Edge is I don't want something that's going to outshine the product.
Right.
And I feel like having just more minimal displays allows you to be really proud of what you have.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't remember how she found us. Typically market organizers find us through a vendor that has our stuff. So
I can't remember exactly like how it came up onto my Instagram. But I'm so glad that it did.
okay. Where is the best place for like our audience to follow you?
Yeah, definitely on Instagram. So it's the Market 1115, and that's where we put a lot of content out. We do on Facebook as well, and of course now with our new software, we're spending a lot of time investing in our website.
Awesome. Okay, if there was one thing you could do differently when starting up this market, what would it be?
Definitely invest in software, get the tools that are going to help you from day one so you can focus on what matters instead of like the clerical work.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Um, and then just real quick, because I think that this was one of the questions was like, how much did you save up anything to launch this market, or is it something that you're able to do kind of without a lot of money, or how much did you say you spent for that first market?
Well, it's actually, we're in a unique situation where I actually did the market for free, because I felt so fortunate in 2020 and 2021 to have a brick and mortar space. And our space was something that I could give away, obviously not for free because there's costs associated with it, to host the event, but I felt like it was something I could do to help keep small businesses going. So for that time, I did use money from our savings as a business to host it there. But now, going into 2022, we are charging a fee to attend. And so what's helpful for us is that we do send out those invoices before the market. So we send them out, and then we can use that funds that are already flowing in to assist with the fees, your fees for software, your fees for website domains, all of those social media ads, etc.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Sophie, it has been a pleasure. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm really excited. It's been so nice chatting with you today. If anyone has any follow-up questions, they are welcome to reach out to me. They can reach out via Instagram, or feel free to go on our website as well. And, I love the market. It's been so much fun, and I'm really excited for 2022 to see what's happening.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm following along. I'm excited to just see like how this ultimately shapes that community because markets are something that have the power to transform a community beyond just like showing up for a market. It can become something to look forward to. I loved going. I grew up for a couple years in Portland, and so there was the Portland Saturday Market that I loved going to. We didn't go very often, but I loved going to it as a kid. It was just, I found it to be fun and exciting and different. Got us out of the house as a family, which we didn't do very often. So it's definitely like, it can mean a lot for your community. So I'm excited to see how you guys evolve and grow. Yeah, definitely give Sophie a follow, and we'll see you guys back here next week for Wellness Wednesday. We have another guest. I'm really excited for this one. You have a good day, Sophie.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.